Our okay. Now we'll talk about our ascendant and descendant. The ascendant in the birth chart is what people perceive, what and how people perceive us. That's consciously how people perceive us, and who are we to become. Versus our descendant is like our own shadow. Now, when you look at it within and what we're projecting out from our subconscious, now when you look at that, our lower ego, higher ego, lower ego, you know, our conscious mind, subconscious mind, including our own shadow, the masculine and feminine energies. Okay, when you look at it in the birth chart, whatever your placements are, you also got to take into account the opposite sides of those placements. Like, for example, if you have a placement in Aries, you got to take into account that you also have a placement. You also have, like, if you have your, if your Venus is in Aries, but you got to take into account you may be kind of acting out of in your lifetime or at some point in your life, Libra's energy. And you have to learn from that Libra energy to pretty much, be able to find that balance with the Aries energy. Is part of our shadow. Those opposite sides, the opposite sides of the places that our signs are placed in, they're part of our descendant. They're Saturnian. They're part of our descendant. They're part of our descendant. That also represents what the karma that we brought into this lifetime with long down south node, for us to transmute and find balance with that north node, like with the placements that are in our chart, is what it is. That's why you got them different aspects there, such as the squares and the oppositions and the conjunctions. That's why you got them the hard aspects there. That's the lesson that had to be learned, and the quincunx as well. And the quincunx, I would talk about a whole different day because you combine the two holds totally different energies together that may not match or may not fit, but you combine them together, it's gonna gain something big from it. People think they're small aspects, but really not. When it come down to the quincunx, now let me give you an example. Just a second. Hold on, just a second. Okay. You had to grab my charger. Okay, the it's just like with the cherry card in the tarot deck. Okay, the card, people think it just represents Cancer, but it doesn't. It represents Sagittarius as well, because Cancer. Okay, when you look at the cherry card, it's like a vehicle. It's something that it represents like a situation or something that that's going in a particular direction, right? But you need something. But okay, with Cancer, okay, Cancer's a water sign. So with Cancer, in order for it, well, how Cancer will survive, it's with fluids. With a car, you have to have Cancer represents a car, and you have to cars represent vehicles represents Cancer. It's the body, and you have to have fluids to make it go right. Now, but also you cannot just have fluids to make it go. You have to have that firepower too, which is Sagittarius, that mutable firepower to make it move, to make it go. That's why, like in relationships, that's why Cancer represents the Two of Cups in the tarot deck, like with soulmates. Because it take two people to make things happen, to make things work, or to make things happen in order for an outcome to happen, and create a situation where it's less to have to be gained. You know, for a higher reason, a higher purpose, right? And teacher, and you both learn something from it, right? You know, so because something karmically playing out there. With the chariot card represents both Cancer and Sagittarius. When you look at it, water and fire, the two opposites, but they have to come together, right, to create this spark, to make something happen. That's what we call quincunx. People may not think it goes together, but it can create something when you bring them together. That's what a quincunx represents. That may seem difficult, but once you give something a try and you bring something together, it's like something a profound can happen, or you can create something profound. That, like for example, that's how electricity is made. When it come down, when it come down to the power grids, the power plants, you know, water and fire. If there's no water, how are we gonna have electricity if there's no water? How are we gonna have global electricity? Or how are we gonna have electricity? It's just like with a generator. With a generator, you gotta have some type of fluid in it. You gotta have gasoline or something in it. Or kerosene or whatever they use in it. And you got to plug it into something. Or you got or you got to be connected to like something from that house. It got to be connected to that house like a plug or something, or some type of outlet. In order for it to generate those meters, in order for electricity, in order for to generate electricity into those wires, in order for power to be generated, right? So that's what a quincunx is. That's what it is when you see a quincunx in the birth chart. Um, it's something hidden there that you didn't know that was there, that would be unlocked in divine timing about you. Okay, so the opposite signs, back what I was talking about with the ascendant, descendant, the opposite signs, um, you gotta look at you gotta look at where your placements are, wherever those placements are placed. You gotta look at the opposite signs as well, what you can learn from those. You know, in in transmutation to your placements that's already there. That's what it is. Those aspects, learning, because help you learn to harness energy. Just like the quincunx, it's help you like you have to channel energy. You have to learn to harness it. Uh, when you look at the ascendant, descendant, they both at the same degree. Let me give an example. And shout out to you, Rabina Rastaban. You know I got to give credit to you because I learned some of my stuff from you as well. Shout out to you, my baby. Um, so with like, let's say for example, somebody have their ascendant at Aries and somebody have their descendant at Libra, and see they're both 29 degrees. 29 is an anaretic degree, and 29 represents it represents things like conflict. It represents because to me, two represents not only value, but two represents balance. But it also represents trickery, and the number nine itself can represent dominance in a sense, or it can represent trying to, how could I put this? How could I put this? It can represent, I don't want to say reasoning, but to me, it represents creating that call. I mean, that cause and effects that cause a particular situation to happen. But I'm just putting in my own words. But there's something to be learned from it. If you get what I'm saying in that sense, it's like there's something to be learned from it. Something that you will learn from it. Eventually you will overcome. Because before that you got number 8, and of course you got number 8, and 8 represents your fears. And 8 is also in astronomy connected with Saturn. So with that being said, and because Saturn represents, what we're projecting out as fears. You know what causing us to do that? You know, the deep root of things. Um, but when you look at that, because 29 represents conflict, is an analytic degree. And when you look at Aries and Libra, they're cardinal signs. Cardinal signs represents initiation. It represents it represents initiation of something. The cardinal signs like the initiation of each element or whatever the element stands for. Because Aries like the cardinal signs like the babies of the zodiac, especially Aries. You know, because you exploring about yourself. It like the story starts there. You exploring about yourself, and then people external to you are helping you with those experiences. With Aries and that Aries and Libra axis, it's pretty much like you learning that a person can be going through a self identity crisis. They may go through things in terms of like bullying, getting bullied, and they taken advantage of, their power taken away from them, their personal power, doubted, and things of that nature. Especially early on in early age, right? But on the other hand, you know, they can oh, and they also may have trouble speaking up and speaking out. Cause Libras does have trouble with that. That's another thing. They have to find the balance is knowing when to speak up and speak out, when not to speak up and speak out, or but they definitely have to find a balance of speaking up and speaking out as well. Um, but on the other hand, those people external to them, only way how they can learn about themselves, Aries, only way how that person, that Aries rising can learn about, Aries ascendant can learn about themselves is through other people. They have to they'll be able to learn about themselves through other people and experiences, whether if it's job, whether if it's romance or whatever. That's the key to them learning about themselves. Meaning that at an early age is that they're not meant to find a purpose or commit to something at an early age. They meant to try out different things because they could be like end up being like the Jack and Jill of all trades. They actually have to try and they learn stuff through those experiences. Um, which could be their resources and things of that nature. But they only how they have to learn is through other people, and it doesn't stop with one particular experience. It's different experiences, different types of experiences they gonna learn about themselves through. And then later on in life, they end up eventually either finding their calling in life or find out their passion of what they like doing what they like to do. But as stated, the only way, but starting early in life and on up, especially on up to the Saturn return, they have to learn about themselves, and until after the Saturn return, their time period in their life is that they gonna be learning about themselves through other people and learn about their own identity. They find their identity through other people. That's the only way how they can find their identity and find out what they're passionate about doing is through dealings with other people, dealings with others. That first house, you know, versus seventh house. And you know, finding their own personal power is through other people. Well, people mirror back to them power game, you know, with power through power games and things that nature, however they doing it and the themes that is playing out. That's what for that's an example of ascendant versus descendant. Because you're starting off, you playing, it's like you're playing off as the descendant, but you pretty much acting out as the descendant, but you have to align with that ascendant. And through time in life, you're gonna end up aligning more and more with that ascendant, with how people perceive you, even though you still be displaying some characteristics of the descendant as well that you still have to work on because there's always room for improvement. That's what ascendant descendant is in a chart. And not only that, but the way how you and then you look at where your chart ruler is, with your chart ruler, you have to look at where your chart ruler is located. Like for example, if that person rises sign in Aries, and you gotta look at okay, it's Mars. Then you gotta look at where Mars is placed at in the chart. They'll kind of show you what you're passionate about as well, or whatever the case is, or the themes that you give off, and so forth and so on. But that's the but that's the and sometimes you have to look at the deacon and take that into consideration. Like if it's on a late degree between 20 and 29 degrees, that's like Aries, Jupiter. You got to look at what Jupiter is placed at as well. But that's why I want to come on here and talk about. You know, you have to find that balance, because the descendant will align with your south node in a sense. It will align with your south node in a sense, like versus the karma that you incarnate over to this lifetime from your ancestors, and then that now your grandparents, great grandparents, or whatever, and you have to learn. It's a lesson you have to learn, or it could be the opposite of what was incarnated. It depends on what they learned in their past life, and and what you were in the past, and what you were in the past life, and how you had to evolve from there, what you had to evolve from, you know, and learn. So that's what that is, and it also represents balance and power. When it come down to the ascendant, descendant, that also becoming one with yourself. That's what it also represents. But that's what it is. And the masculine and feminine energy as a state, wherever it is, and you come into one with yourself. So that's what that is.